Let's talk about keeping your private life private when you're between 55 and 75. I've seen too many people run into problems because they shared something they shouldn't have. Maybe it was telling the wrong person about their retirement savings, or venting about family drama to someone who turned around and spread it everywhere. These situations can get messy fast. So, here's what we're going to do. I'll walk you through exactly what not to share and give you practical ways to handle those tricky situations when people start asking personal questions. Trust me, once you know these 7 things, you'll feel more confident about setting boundaries and keeping your personal life, well, personal. I'm Hunter Carrington, and welcome to my channel. I've dedicated myself to sharing wisdom about living well in our golden years. From practical tips to heartwarming conversations, we'll discover together how to make these golden years truly shine. Subscribe to stay connected and inspired. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference for me. Now, let's get started with the first thing you should never share. Number 1. Discover the precise total of your savings and retirement funds. Let's talk about your money. You know those questions that make you squirm? How much do you have saved for retirement? Or what's in your investment account? There's a good reason those questions make you uncomfortable. Here's the thing about sharing your exact financial numbers. It changes how people see you, and not always in a good way. I've seen it happen too many times. Someone mentions their retirement savings at a family dinner, and suddenly their nephew needs a small loan for his new business venture. Or they tell a friend about their investment returns, and now that friend won't stop sending them stock tips and pushing them to try day trading. But it gets worse than just awkward conversations. Scammers specifically target people in our age group because they know we've had time to build up our savings. They're getting sneakier too. These days, they might spend weeks or months building trust, asking innocent questions about your retirement plans before they try anything suspicious. By keeping your exact numbers private, you're taking away their ammunition. Now, I'm not saying you should never discuss money. Your financial advisor needs to know the details to help you plan effectively. And yes, you might want to have frank discussions with your spouse or adult children about estate planning. That makes sense. But notice something about these examples. They're all people who have a specific reason to know your numbers and a responsibility to keep that information private. For everyone else, keep it general. If someone asks about your retirement savings, you can say, "We're comfortable," or "We're working with a financial advisor to stay on track." These answers are polite but firm. They close the door on further questions without making things awkward. Remember, there's a big difference between mentioning you're planning a vacation and sharing how much you've got in your bank account. One is normal conversation. The other is giving away information that could put you at risk. Number 2. Home address, when unnecessary. Think about how often someone asks where you live. Maybe it's that chatty person at your book club, or someone you just met at a community event. They're probably just being friendly, but in today's world, your address is a key that can open too many doors. I've heard so many stories from people our age that started with an innocent conversation. One woman mentioned her address to someone at her gym, thinking nothing of it. A week later, she started getting random packages she never ordered. Turns out, someone had used her address for credit card fraud. Another friend casually told his neighbors he lived alone. Next thing he knew, his house was targeted while he was on vacation. Social media makes this even trickier. You might post a photo of your beautiful garden or your newly painted front door, not realizing you're giving away clues about where you live. Even sharing the name of your neighborhood or nearby landmarks can help someone piece together your location. Here's what works better. Be specific about your general area without giving away your exact location. You can say, "I'm in the north part of town," or "I live about 15 minutes from downtown." Most people asking are just making conversation. They don't need your street address. For your online shopping and subscriptions, consider getting a P.O. box. It's not expensive, and it adds a solid layer of protection. Plus, you won't have to worry about packages sitting on your doorstep while you're out. Some places even offer virtual mailboxes now. They'll receive your mail, scan it, and let you view it online. The key is making this your default setting. Unless someone specifically needs your address, like a doctor's office or a close family member, they probably don't need to know exactly where you live. You're not being rude by keeping this information private. You're being smart. Number 3, investment details and strategies. Investment strategies often become a hot topic during casual get-togethers, especially when someone mentions their latest success in the stock market. Before you know it, the conversation turns into a lively exchange of financial advice. The problem starts small. Maybe you mentioned that tech stock you bought last year. Next thing you know, your neighbor Bob is telling you all about cryptocurrency. Your sister's friend is pushing real estate investments, and someone at church keeps sending you links about gold futures. And let's be honest, none of these people know your financial situation or goals. I remember talking to a couple who'd done really well with their investments. They were so excited about their returns that they shared all the details at a family reunion. For months afterward, they got calls from relatives asking them to invest, just a little, in various business ideas. Some family members stopped talking to them entirely, thinking they were too rich to relate to anymore. The worst part, their adult kids started questioning every purchase they made, wondering why they weren't spending more on the grandchildren. Here's what smart investors do instead. They keep their strategies quiet. They don't share which stocks they're buying or how much they've made. When someone asks about investments, they redirect the conversation. You might say something like, "I work with my financial advisor on that," or "I'm still learning about the market myself." This isn't just about avoiding awkward conversations. Every person's financial situation is unique. What works for your golf buddy might be completely wrong for you. That's why it's so important to work with a qualified financial advisor who knows your complete picture, your goals, your risk tolerance, your retirement timeline. Think about it this way. Successful investors don't need to prove themselves to anyone. They don't need likes on social media or approval from their neighbors. They're too busy watching their money grow quietly in the background, while everyone else talks about what they should be doing. Number 4, negative comments about other people. Let's talk about something we've all done, but probably shouldn't. Speaking negatively about other people. You're sitting there with friends, the conversation flows, and before you know it, you're sharing your thoughts about your daughter-in-law's parenting style or your neighbor's overgrown lawn. I've seen this go wrong so many times. There was this woman in my community who told a friend how she felt about her son's new wife. She thought it was a private conversation. 2 weeks later, her son wasn't speaking to her. Her daughter-in-law was heartbroken. and 3 other families had picked sides in the drama. One comment, shared in confidence, nearly tore apart a family. Here's what makes this so tricky. We often share these thoughts when we're frustrated or hurt. Maybe your neighbor really does let their dog bark all night, or perhaps your friend's husband actually is rude at parties. But speaking about it to others doesn't fix the problem. It just spreads the negativity around like butter on hot toast. The words we speak have a funny way of taking on a life of their own. That quick comment about someone's appearance, it might get back to them, twisted and turned into something much worse. The complaint about your cousin's spending habits, watch it show up as family gossip at the next holiday gathering. And let's be real, it changes how people see you too. When you regularly speak poorly of others, people start wondering what you say about them when they're not around. They become careful with their words, hold back from sharing, and eventually might stop confiding in you altogether. I've learned to ask myself 3 questions before speaking about someone. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Most negative comments fail at least one of these tests. Instead of criticizing your coworker's constant lateness, talk about people who inspire you. Rather than pointing out your friend's weight gain, share something you admire about them. This doesn't mean you can't ever express concerns or frustrations, but there's a right way to do it, directly, with the person involved, privately, and respectfully. If you need to vent, write it in a journal or talk to a counselor. They're trained to help you process these feelings without creating ripples in your relationships. Number 5. Detailed medical diagnoses of conditions. Health conversations often pop up during community gatherings or over a quiet afternoon tea. One moment, everyone is chatting about the weather or their favorite TV shows, and the next, someone is sharing a vivid account of their latest medical procedure. Health issues are a big part of life, especially as we get older. When you're dealing with a new diagnosis or treatment, it's natural to want to talk about it. But sharing too many medical details can backfire in ways you might not expect. Just last week, I was at a book club meeting when Sarah started talking about her arthritis. 20 minutes later, she'd gotten 6 different supplement recommendations, 3 names of miracle doctors, and someone even tried to sell her essential oils. She came to discuss books and left with a heap of well-meaning but overwhelming advice she never asked for. Then there's the ripple effect. Once you share detailed health information, it tends to spread. Your bridge partner tells her sister, who tells her daughter, who posts about it on Facebook, and suddenly your private health matter is community news. I've seen this happen to so many people who just wanted to share with one trusted friend. Here's what works better. Keep your detailed health discussions between you, your doctors, and your closest family members. They're the ones who actually need to know the specifics. For everyone else, stick to general updates when necessary. Instead of describing your latest blood pressure readings, you might say, "I'm working with my doctor on staying healthy." When people ask how you're feeling, you can focus on what you're doing rather than what's wrong. Talk about your daily walks, your new swimming routine, or how you're enjoying your garden. This keeps conversations positive and gives others something encouraging to respond to, rather than putting them in the awkward position of not knowing what to say. And let's face it, most people asking about your health are just being polite. They want to know you're okay, not the detailed results of your latest medical tests. Save those conversations for your healthcare team who can actually help you make informed decisions. Number 6. Details of arguments with children, grandchildren, or other family members. Family arguments, they happen in every home, behind every closed door. The fighting, the tears, the slammed doors, the silent treatment. But here's where many people make a huge mistake. They start telling others about these private family moments. I'll never forget what happened to my friend Janet. She was frustrated with her son's parenting choices, so she vented to her walking group. Soon her neighbors started treating her son differently when he visited. Other parents at her grandkids' school whispered about her family. The worst part? Her son found out what she'd said, and now she sees her grandchildren half as often as she used to. These stories spread like wildfire in our communities. One person tells their hairdresser about their daughter's marriage troubles. The hairdresser mentions it to another client. That client happens to work with the daughter's best friend. Before you know it, a private family matter becomes public knowledge, and relationships crack under the weight of embarrassment and broken trust. The thing about family disagreements is they usually heal with time. Your son might disagree with your advice today, but thank you for it next year. Your daughter might skip a few family dinners, but show up for Christmas with a hug. However, once you've shared those angry words with outsiders, they're set in stone. People remember, and they judge, long after your family has moved past the issue. When you're hurting or angry with family members, it's tempting to seek support from friends. You want someone to tell you you're right, to validate your feelings. But this temporary relief often leads to long-term damage. Your friends only hear your side. They form opinions about your family members, and those opinions stick, even after you've reconciled. If you really need to talk through family issues, consider speaking with a counselor or therapist. They're trained to help you process your feelings without taking sides. They keep your confidence, offer professional guidance, and help you find constructive ways to address family conflicts. Think of family arguments like a broken arm healing. It needs proper care, time, and privacy to mend correctly. Exposing it to unnecessary pressure or interference only makes the healing process longer and more painful. Number 7. Highly controversial political or religious beliefs. You're at a lovely dinner party, enjoying great food and pleasant company. Then someone brings up last week's election or their views on a hot-button issue. The temperature in the room shifts. Friendly faces turn tense. You can feel the wall going up between old friends. I watched this exact scene play out at my neighbor's retirement party. One minute everyone was sharing memories and laughing. Then someone mentioned their strong views about a current political issue. Within minutes, two friends who'd known each other for decades weren't speaking. 6 months later, they still haven't reconciled. These days, our beliefs run deep. Really deep. Social media feeds us a steady diet of opinions that match our own. News channels reinforce what we already think. When we share our strong views, we're not just stating an opinion, we're planting a flag that can divide us from people we care about. My friend Mike learned this the hard way. He posted his passionate political opinions on Facebook, thinking he was just expressing himself. Soon his grandkids stopped coming by as often. His bowling group got awkward. People he'd known for years started seeing him differently, not as Mike the helpful neighbor or Mike the great storyteller, but as Mike the guy with those views. The hardest part? Once these words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. You might soften your stance over time, but people remember. That Thanksgiving argument about religion from 3 years ago? Your sister-in-law hasn't forgotten, Those strong political views you shared at the community center, they're still influencing how your neighbors interact with you. This doesn't mean you can't have deep conversations. You can discuss current events, share your hopes for the community, or talk about your faith. The key is staying in the space of mutual respect and shared humanity. Instead of declaring who's right or wrong, try asking questions. Show curiosity about other perspectives. Find common ground in shared values like family, community, and kindness. When controversial topics come up, redirect the conversation towards something that brings people together. Talk about your grandchildren's achievements, share stories about your travels, or discuss that new restaurant downtown. Build bridges instead of walls. We've covered 7 things you'll want to keep private: your savings totals, home address, investment moves, comments about others, health details, family arguments, and strong personal beliefs. When you hold these cards close, you're not being secretive, you're being smart. You know what makes life sweeter after 55? Peace of mind. When you're selective about what you share, you'll sleep better knowing your personal information is safe. Your relationships stay stronger. Your private life stays private. And those awkward moments, they become a lot less common. I'd love to hear from you in the comments which of these 7 things hits home for you. Maybe you've learned the hard way about sharing too much, or perhaps you've got some wisdom to add. Before you go, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you know someone who could use this advice, send this video their way. Sometimes the best gift we can give is helping others avoid those "I wish I hadn't said that" moments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.